What is Hiyori teaching those kids? Why did Luffy not say goodbye to Momo and Kinemon? When exactly did Yamato change her mind about the one thing that she's been telling everyone about throughout the entire raid? Oh, heartbroken. Okay, let's talk about the final chapter of the Wano Kuni arc. I am very confused, let's say, about how Oda-sensei has decided to wrap everything up here. It's a really strange ending to an arc that I have enjoyed for pretty much every single chapter since it has started. I mean, Wano has some of the highest highs that One Piece has to offer. I'm actually working on a full analysis of the arc overall. There's of course Gear 5 and Luffy's epic clash with Kaido, the unparalleled world building, culture and beauty of Wano as a country, and countless fantastic characters with fantastic story arcs that I will genuinely miss not having around going forwards. Heck, I'll gladly admit that until Luffy's defeat of Kaido and the end of the raid, Wano has been my favorite arc in the story so far, for me personally, competing easily with the likes of Enies Lobby or even Marineford. And if you've been following this channel at all, you will know that there is barely anything that I will feel like talking about negatively with One Piece. Yes, different people have different tastes, and I also, just as many other people too, fall into the trap of expecting certain things to happen that then don't, like a longer flashback for Kaido for instance. But I still felt that from a storytelling perspective, and more importantly, an entertainment one, Wano was a true masterpiece up to 99.8% of the way really. And sadly, at least as of right now, it didn't really stick the landing properly. Now that's not to say that I think Wano is bad now, or that this chapter in particular was terrible or unreadable. I still think Wano overall was fantastic, and I have a lot of positive things to say about today as well for sure. Especially about the goodbye between Luffy, Law, and Kid, the emotional flashback, and the fact that we get to look forward to a completely new and unexplored island after this. I mean, these three, Luffy, Law, and Kid, just have the best dynamic. Kid always being able to get Luffy and even Law to do stupid stuff. That's absolutely hilarious. And I love that Law is trying to act like all tough here, as if he's not gonna cry himself to sleep at night for not having Chopper around anymore. I'm super excited to hopefully see both of them sooner rather than later again in the story. And I'm incredibly excited to see where the Straw Hats might be going next, what bounties they've gotten, and whether we'll see a bit more of what's going on around the world right now. But we also have to talk about why this chapter, and the ones before that made up the epilogue of Wano, felt kind of off. And I'm mostly talking about the citizens of Wano here, because obviously Green Bull and Shanks were absolutely awesome. But there are issues I have with this chapter in particular, though I will say that there might be one explanation that would rectify all of this and vindicate Oda-sensei as the godly author that he still is. But we'll get to that in a second. First, I do have some bones to pick here, sadly. And before I get to the betrayal of the century and Yamato, who has become one of my favorite characters, not joining the crew after all that has happened, I first need to vent a little bit again about the pacing here. Now, I'm really not sure if it was Oda-sensei trying to get Shanks into the story in time for Film Red, his newfound determination to just finish the story in the next 2 or 3 years, or if maybe it was all just planned to go like this from the very start, but the last 10 chapters of Wano or so felt incredibly rushed. Like, there were so many open plot points and character arcs that still needed finishing, and while Oda-sensei admittedly managed to address most of them in a quick few panels here and there, it really didn't feel like it was enough. I mean, Zoro's encounter with the Grim Reaper and him taking the drugs seems to have had no consequences, at least for now. Nor did all the setup for Zoro having Wano heritage. There was also absolutely no moral reckoning for Kaido or Big Mom, nor any clarity about what actually happened to them. And that's really just to name a few things here. I mean, in general, having a handful of chapters to wrap up an entire arc would be more than enough in any other manga, But in One Piece, and especially for Wano, that lasted an incredible 4 years, with many chapters focused on building up these relationships and teasing many mysteries. It just felt so abrupt, really. Kaido gets hammered into the ground, big party, goodbye. That's kind of how it goes. And it really scares me to think about everything that's coming next. All the awesome places and events we're about to see during the final Laugh Tale saga, that all of this will also feel equally rushed, when now should be the time to actually slow down and enjoy the ride and get all the answers to all the mysteries that have been building up throughout the story. But let's now move on to my bleeding heart. A few of you might remember my reaction to Yamato's very first appearance in the story. Literally from the very first chapter that Yamato revealed herself to Luffy, I have wanted to see her join the crew after this. #Yamato for Nakama. A character that came out of nowhere during the third act of Wano that Oda-sensei built up and gave characterization to in just a few chapters, and that ended up as the most awesome character that we met in all of Wano, to me personally at least. Yamato had everything it would take to become a great Straw Hat for the final part of the story. A tragic backstory, incredible strength, fantastic character design, a major character flaw for Luffy to solve, being uber attached to the persona of Odin, and of course a dream. The dream to finally leave Wano, the place where she had been captive all her life, become a pirate and see the world together with Luffy, Ace's little brother. In fact, Yamato said this so often that I got worried Oda-sensei might pull the brakes on this the last second, though I didn't want to believe it. I mean, really, every second line or so that Yamato had was basically, I'm going to set sail with Luffy and become a pirate. She said it to Luffy, to Momo, to Kaido, to Luffy again, to the Straw Hats. This was her thing, her dream. And so it felt like Yamato was going to be like this embodiment of Luffy's triumph in Wano on board of the Sunny, an eccentric, fun, and strong female character for the crew who is worshipping and striving to be like her idol Odin. And now she suddenly wants to stay behind and travel Wano first, the place that she wanted to leave more than anything else. Like, when did this change of heart happen, please? Was it in this conversation with Luffy that she apparently had? Why did Oda not show this to us? Did Luffy entrust her with like a special mission or something? But it feels so very unlike Luffy to keep someone from being free and living their dream, don't you think? And if Yamato was not introduced to become a Straw Hat after all this, what, please, was the point of her character? Because becoming a Straw Hat very much felt like the point throughout the raids. Really, if this is it for Yamato and we just see her again for the final battle when Pluton is released, why introduce her in the first place? I'm so confused and sad about this, really. What was the point of waiting so long with her introduction and all these scenes focusing on her wanting to set out to sea with Luffy? I mean, if I didn't know any better, I would just say that Oda-sensei suddenly just changed his mind about her character last second here. The entire goodbye scene at the port where Luffy offers to pick up Yamato, Momo, and Kinemon whenever they wanna join the crew, it feels a lot like another Jinbei situation, really. It does sound like they will join at some point, but remember, One Piece is in its final arc and is trying to wrap up in 2 or 3 years. So when exactly is this supposed to happen? And will it really matter if it's only for a couple of chapters for the final battle? And I guess since we're on that topic right now, what exactly was the plan for Carrot? And why didn't she get a goodbye either? Or is she actually waiting on board of the ship? Honestly, I feel like at this point, the Straw Hats have to at least leave with one member after the longest arc in One Piece history. Like, please. Then there's also Marco, who had come to fight side by side with the crew, who risked his life for Luffy. What exactly happened to him after the funeral of Izo? Did the crew say goodbye to him? And what is he gonna do next? Oh boy, and then there's of course The weirdest part of this entire chapter, Hiyori's bizarre line to the citizens of Wano in the reenactment of the raid of Onigashima, which, by the way, let's be real, is kinda strange that they already have 1 week after the battle ended, but whatever. Hiyori, who apparently plays herself here, says the line the citizens have been waiting for, which apparently is not Wano is free or the tyrant has been defeated, but that the Kurozumi are born to burn. A cheeky little twist on the Odin was born to boil line, but more importantly, a really strange and hateful takeaway from all that has happened to Wano. Like, what the... I actually didn't have access to the original Japanese version of this line, but if it's even remotely accurately translated, this is some dark stuff right here. Like, really? Your moral of the story and everything that has happened is that people should be burned for the clan they were born into? It's such a strange messaging for a story that keeps telling us over and over again that discrimination is bad. That a person isn't bound and their fate isn't determined by the family or race that they're born into. No matter if it's Dofi and Corazon, Sanji being a Windsmoke, Robin being from Ohara, the Fishman, and so on and so forth. The entire moral of One Piece so far is the exact opposite of what Hiyori is saying here pretty much. So why did Oda put it in here? Clearly it's not his personal view of things, so the only explanation I have is that he is portraying the people of Wano, including Hiyori, as having learned nothing from their suffering of the last 20 years or so, instead being all vengeful and stuff. It was exactly this generalization and hatred of someone's heritage that led to the endless cycle of hatred in the country in the first place. The Kurozumi plotting against everyone else and everyone plotting against the Kurozumi. So why this dark twist at the end of Wano when everyone should have changed their views and be a more open and inclusive country? Instead, Wano's borders stay closed and the people fall back into the same discrimination as before. What? It almost feels like Wano as an arc isn't quite over yet. Yamato has to stay behind for some reason, borders closed, and even though the country has been freed from tyranny for now, hatred and discrimination is still part of everyday life and culture in Wano. Only that, of course, Wano is over. Except, what if it isn't? The narrator literally tells us that we're taking a little break and that we'll be back in Wano soon. So let's say the Straw Hats go on like a mini adventure, maybe a very short interlude arc, at Sphinx Island maybe, to visit Ace's grave and then come back to pick up Yamato and resolve like some small conflict in the country. For example, there's the idea that Toko might be a Kurozumi, so that might be a factor. So please, let's not burn Toko. And so if that were the case and we're going back to Wano and a very short 4th act very soon, I would drop any criticism I've shared here today and just bow before Oda-sensei's picture. I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Or maybe you've already forgotten all the other questions and open mysteries that we still need answers to before One Piece ends. Well, in that case, you can refresh your knowledge of all open questions with this video right here.